What's up everyone, it's Bones here. In today's video, I'll be revisiting Vaylantz as it's getting another new card in Photon Hypernova, but before I begin, if you happen to enjoy content like this, clicking on those thumbs up and subscribe buttons would be greatly appreciated, as it goes a long way in supporting the channel and shows me that you like content like this. So if you happen to watch the Gishki video, I'm going to be structuring this one similarly, where I'm going to start with a bunch of different one-card combos that will determine the direction that you take with the deck before going into the combos with the newer card, so that you can make your decision based off of that. So Shino, the water level 2 that we have in our hand here, is really the main one-card starter of this deck, though there is another one that we'll be adding momentarily as we see it right here with the activation, which can put you your Shino in the scale if you don't have it, but in this case scenario, we're going to put the Baron onto our field, though there is a second option that we can use if we want to, but I'll go over that later in this video. We're going to use the Baron's effect, which will allow us to move the Shino, and then the Shino will net us a search here as we get the Marquise, and then we're going to link away into Beyond the Pendulum, which will net us a search for the Magic, and this is just a level manipulator, and this is going to be also how you make a lot of your end boards, as the level manipulation is important in what you can do. So we're going to use the Marquise now, and something I don't think I did in this first replay is you can use the Marquise effect for an addition, as during your main phase you can excavate up to the number of cards that you roll with a 6-sided die, but we won't be using that card, so it really won't matter to what you do with this end board. So I'm going to change the Baron and the Marquise into level 4s with the Magic, which basically just reduces one and adds levels to another, as we're going to make our Gallant Granite, which will net us a search for a Fossil Dyna. As you see here, we actually don't normal summon in this deck like that, so it's very easy to just play normal summons like this as your one of Garnets, and we're going to then normal summon the Fossil Dyna with the Appaloosa, and this will be the most card economic friendly route that you can take, as you only play the Granite with the Fossil Dyna, which is just one in the extra deck, one in the main deck. But now I'm going to go over 3 or 4 different directions you can actually take this combo. So the same setup as our last hand with the Shino, and we can now place it on our scale and then use its effect, which will special summon itself to its column, and then we can use the effect to get us a search as we get the activation again. The activation will place a Baron, pretty much the same stuff as the last combo, as we're going to special summon the Baron, move the Shino. The Shino will then net us a search as we get the Marquise. We can then go into our Beyond the Pendulum. We'll get an addition here as we get the Magic, and the level manipulation really does a lot for this deck, as you're able to just go into so many options, especially with the difference in typings and stuff that you have like that in this deck. So we're going to special summon out the Marquise here, use its effect to get us the Excavation and the Search. Again, we're not going to use it, as you don't need it in this combo, but just showing that you can. Then we're going to use the Magic. We're going to make the Baron and the Marquise level 4s here, which is important because they're both machines, and this allows you to go into X here, which will net us a search for the next Garnet that will play in this deck, and this requires 2 extra deck slots with the Cyberstein in the main deck, and you also pay the 5k life points, though the board is still powerful as you have the Exterio and a 4 material Appaloosa, which can also be IP Masquerena along with like other stuff if you don't want to go into the Appaloosa. Now I think that this is the last one of the more common ones, and I'm going to start here by using the Shino, and then I'm going to use its effect, which will allow us to get us the activation. Again, we're going to do basically the same things as last time, as we just want to get to the point where we make the rank 4, as we're going to move the Shino, use its effect, netting us a search for the Marquise. We can then link away into Beyond the Pendulum, use its effect to net us a search, as we're going to get the Magic again. We can then place our scales, Pendulum summon after that, bringing out our 2 Vaylantz from our extra deck, and then once we do that, we can use our Marquise, put it on the board, use its effect to excavate, and then add us a card here, as we're going to excavate a few, and again, it doesn't matter what you add here, But what's going to happen now is we're going to use the magic, we're going to change them to level 4 again, both machines this time again because you want to summon your gear, and then from there we can add ourselves the Planet Pathfinder, and this will allow us to get into a field spell with Appaloosa. So in this case I'm just going to add Necro Valley, but depending on the board you can set up stuff like Secret Village of the Spellcasters and stuff like that. So now comes the final one card combo with Shino. But there is still another direction I want to point out later in the video that you can take. This is just the last one of the one card combos, and the last one that really starts like this. So we're going to use our Baron here, moving our Baron to the monster zone, then moving the Shino, which will net us the search. We're going to grab the Marquise again. You can see that these are all cards that you really do want to see, as they just enable so much for the deck. And from here we're going to place our scales. We can then Pendulum Summon, and once we Pendulum Summon those out, we can use the Marquise. The Marquise will then allow us to special summon itself. We'll use its effect, which will net us a search here as we excavate. Well, it may not always net you a search, but in this case it will. So we're not going to use it this time either, but we are going to go into Dagda, use the magic, which will allow us to trigger the Scythe, as well as change the levels of the two machines on board. But it really doesn't matter, as we're going to go into Tornado Dragon, giving us a one card Scythe lock. And another option that I thought was cool, though unlike the Fossil Dino, this still does take 2 cards in the extra deck and 1 card in the main deck. So this is the first combo with the new card that I'll be showing, and it's the first 2 card combo also that I'll be showing. So we're going to activate the Shino here, which will allow us to use its effect, special summon it, then we can use its effect, netting us a search as we get the activation. We can then use the activation to place the level 6 water zone mover, and this is similar to Baron in the sense that you can special summon it, then move the Shino to the adjacent column. And the more time that I've spent with this deck, I used to play this as a one-of, but I was definitely wrong about that, and you'll see why momentarily. So we're going to use the effect of the level 6 here, as we're going to special summon it, use its effect to move the Shino, and then from here we can net ourselves the search for the Viscount. We'll then use the Viscount, use its effect, which will allow us to special summon it, go into our Beyond the Pendulum. Beyond the Pendulum will net us a search here, as we're going to add this time the Kendo Spirit, and then we're going to place our scales here. You don't need the magic in this hand because of course we won't be doing the level manipulation, but we're going to Pendulum Summon out here, as we're going to return the Kendo Spirit to our hand, link away into Dagda again, as we're going to special summon out the Marquise and chain the Dagda to get the Scythe to that effect. And then from here we're going to use the Marquise to net us a search through the excavations if you happen to hit one. And then from here we're going to go into the Fusion. And this is the new card that we're getting, Wireframe, and it's a level 12 Pendulum Fusion monster. Its Pendulum effect reads that you can activate one of these effects. Special summon this card to your main monster zone. In its same column, move one monster in your main monster zone to an adjacent horizontal monster zone, and you can only use the effect of Wireframe once per turn. And the monster effect reads that it takes 2 level 5 or higher Vaylantz monsters. This face down card in the extra deck must first be special summoned by tributing the above cards you control. You can only use each of the following effects of Wireframe once per turn. Quick effect, you can switch the locations of monsters in your main monster zone, or 2 monsters in your opponent's main monster zone. And if a card in the monster zone moves to another monster zone, you can destroy 1 card on the field, so it's non-targeting popping. And because we have a body to switch zones with, this is how we'll actually accomplish the Scythe lock with this route. So we're going to skip to our opponent's turn, use the effect to switch our 2 monsters here, and the cool thing is that you can also trigger your Vaylantz like this as we get our Shino back to an open zone, and effectively we'll also get the Scythe lock this way with just 2 cards, along with your level 12 Fusion. So now I'm going to take it up a notch with 3 card combos, and these are the 3 main cards that you've been seeing throughout this entire video. The final combo I will be showing will actually have none of these cards in the hand, so look forward to that. But we're going to start here by using the effect of the Shino, and from here we're going to special summon it, adding us a Vaylantz Var this time around, as we're going to activate it, get ourselves the field spell, and these combos will be using the field spell, as we do have the activation and the Shino. So we're going to use the effect of the Marquise here, special summoning it, and then we can get our level 6 water, which will then use the activation to move our Marquise, putting it under the extra monster zone, and then we can special summon our level 6 water next to it, as we're going to use the effect to move our Shino. Use the Shino's effect here as it moves to get ourselves Viscount, and then we can go into our Grand Duke, as we're going to then fuse those away for the new level 12 wireframe. As we're now going to activate Viscount, use its effect, which will allow us to special summon it. Then we can now use the effect of the wireframe to move the zone of your 2 Vaylantz monsters, and this will allow us to use the effect of Viscount and get the pop off of wireframe, as we're going to pop our own field spell so that our opponent can't use it. And from here we're going to use the effect of our Beyond the Pendulum as we summon it, and then we're going to search ourselves the magic, as we're now going to get ourselves the pendulum summons, as we're going to bring out our Shino and our Viscount, and then from here we're going to use the effect of the level 6 water one, which then we can use the magic, and this will make both of them level 4, and they're actually waters, so we can go into Bahamut Shark and summon Toad this way, as we also now have materials for Appaloosa to make Toad, the Fusion, and Appaloosa. Now I'll be using the same 3 cards again to go into our more standard combos, and this will kind of condition you to play with this deck, as these are the main cards that you want to see, and your Vaylantz Var getting you the field spell, allowing you to place a field spell on your opponent's zone that you can use also during your turn is just helpful, as we're going to place the level 6 water here using its effect, which will allow us to then move the Shino so that we can get a search with it. And then we're going to add ourselves the Viscount here, and this is basically just to get you into your Beyond the Pendulum access, as we're going to use the field spell on the opposing side, which will allow us to special summon out our Viscount, and then we can use the effect of the activation, moving our level 6 here, and we're doing this in order to special summon out our Marquise and have the level 6 water under the extra monster zone so that we can go into the Grand Duke with it, and then make our wireframe, as we're now going to use its effect, switching the 2 zones here, using the effect of Viscount and the wireframe as Chainlink 2 to pop our own field spell so our opponent can't use it. We'll place the Grand Duke with the Viscount before going into our Beyond the Pendulum, using the Beyond the Pendulum's effect, which will allow us to get a search here. And another thing I want to point out that I actually haven't pointed out here is that if your opponent has cards on the field and you want to pop them with Beyond the Pendulum, as long as you summon 2 monsters with different original types, you can get your pops. But from here, we're going to use the effect of the Viscount, special summoning it out, as we use the effect of the field spell to bring it out before. And now we're going to go into our Gallant Granite. As you see, we have 3 materials for Appaloosa before searching for Fossil Dyna. And now we can even use the effect of the Grand Duke, giving us a 4th material, giving you extra options that you can do. As you see, we go into a 4 material Appaloosa, but you can go into Masquerena and different stuff, as we normal summon the Fossil Dyna to end our board with the Appo, the Fossil Dyna, and the Wireframe. The penultimate combo will be similar to the last 2, as again, I just want to condition you to the different options to show you that you can do this stuff just as long as the choices that you play in the deck allow you to make said board. And you're going to see something with the deck profile that it's actually not going to be 40 cards, and you'll see why, but you're going to see me use the effect of Baron here, which will allow us to get an add in the Marquise as we get the activations effect, placing the level 6 water. We're going to use its effect to move the Marquise, and then we can use the water to special summon itself out, use its effect moving the Shino, then the Shino can then get ourselves a search, and from here we'll bring out the Grand Duke with the Marquise under the extra monster zone. We can then go into our wireframe as we use the Viscount, activate the field on our opponent's turn, bringing out the Viscount, and then we're going to use the effect of the wireframe, moving the 2, and then from here we're going to get our Chainlink 1 Viscount, Chainlink 2 wireframe, as we're going to pop our own field, go into the Beyond the Pendulum, also getting our Grand Duke onto our scale, And from here, we're just doing a bunch of the same stuff as we now get our Viscount to our hand off the Beyond the Pendulum. We can then Pendulum summon here, as you can also get the pops here. And we're also going to use the effect of Viscount now in order to bring out the body. For our rank 4, as we have 2 level 4s, we'll go into our gear as they're also machines, and now we can get ourselves Cyberstein, and this will allow us to pay 5,000 for the Exterio, and then we can link away into our Appaloosa, while having 2 bodies on board left with the Cyberstein and the Fusion, and this will allow us to go into Pit Knight. We can also make Masquerena or anything, but this is just another card that I featured previously on the channel that I felt still had some utility. As promised, the last hand will have none of those cards, and the fact of the matter is that when you have either Shino or Activation, it makes life a lot easier. The rest of your hands will depend on what you can play with and what you have. But the main goal of this hand here is going to get to at least a similar end board to our last one shown in the combos. So we're going to activate the Baron using its effect to special summon it. Then we're going to activate the Viscount, which will allow us to use its effect to special summon it. And from here we can go directly into our Beyond the Pendulum, as there's no point in using the Baron to move any zones. Get ourselves the magic, then we can place our scales here as we're going to put the water and the magic. And then we're going to special summon out 2 here, or 3 actually, with the level 4 water we also have in hand. And then we're going to use the effect of Baron, moving the Viscount so that we can then bring out our level 6 water, as we do control the level 4 water here. Now we can use the effect of magic, which will allow us to manipulate the levels here. And now we can go into our Bahamut Shark for our Toad, along with having 2 more level 4s. So this requires you to play a lot of commitment, but I just wanted to show that this was also possible. As you see, we even have materials for the Appaloosa with the Fossil Dyna now. So we'll link away the Gallant, the Bahamut Shark, and the Beyond the Pendulum for Appaloosa with the normal summon of Fossil Dyna, setting up our board here, accompanied with the Toad. So as mentioned in the video, you see that we only have 39 cards here, and it's because it's fully dependent on what you do. If you want to play the Cyberstein, then you just fill up the 2 extra deck slots with your gear and your Exterio. If you want another option, then you have this, but this kind of loses to the Bestial stuff harder. I also want to point out that you don't need to go into Bahamut Shark. You can also go into number 4. And then the one that requires the most commitment is the Pathfinder, and I say the most because it's 2 spots in the main deck. I would also like to point out that when you play Gallant, you can also fit an extra Link monster or another extra deck monster, like Dweller. You saw we just had a hand where we can make 2 level 4s. You can end up going into your utility level 4, like Gear or the Gallant, and set it up with another rank 4. And the last thing I would like to mention are the last Vaylantz fusion along with Book, and these are just other options that you can add to the deck if you would like to play them. I've seen some combo lines with them. I just happen to kind of like what I had here. You can always look ahead towards the future because you never know what type of changes may come. So now I want to go over the main deck options, and you can see that I've moved this to 3, and to me it's because it has the same value as Baron. They literally just move your Shino, and having 3 activation, 3 Shino with 3 of these, it's just raising the consistency of your combos. And you'll see I also have the water level 4 at 3, and I know that I've seen a lot of lists with this at 1 or 2, including my own. I used to only play this at 1. I think I was totally wrong for this too, because of the ability to go second with it. You can just special summon it out, and then its 50-50 effects aren't even lose-lose, so that's kind of nice. For the one-ofs, I do still like the Curtain Raiser for the extender. You also don't have to play it in multiples, meaning you'll never see multiple, so that's kind of nice. Kendo and the Magic, along with the Curtain Raiser, will probably be changed as soon as we get the super heavy samurai stuff, as I've seen some deck lists with that already. Look out for a video when we do get that support. I do think that everything else is pretty self-explanatory, as I've always liked the Viscount 3 here along with your Shino and your Baron. The Marquise is another 3 of now, just seeing that it can special summon itself, potentially add you a card. It's a level 6 for your level manipulation. Definitely worth the slots in my opinion. Those are pretty much all the changes. So to go through the card by card, we have the 3 Marquise, the 3 Viscount, the 3 Baron, the 1 Hojo, the 3 Shino, the 3 Aeon, 3 Nazu, the 1 Abyss Curtain, the 3 Activation of the green field spell, one of the other one, then the Vaylantz Var, the one called by the Magic, the Kendo Spirit, the Cyberstein. Then these options, they're from my old list. You can play Bestials and stuff like that. The one cool thing that I did like about the Veilers and stuff here is that you can go into Selene off of Beyond the Pendulum and then bridge into your Appaloosa that way if it ever comes up. Which is another thing that I wanted to point out about playing Soldina compared to the other versions of the deck. You just get more extra deck options like Donna, Dagger for Hire, Nightmare Phoenix or whatever. It'll pretty much round out the main deck. To the extra deck, you have the 1 Wireframe, the 1 Grand Duke. Depending on what you choose to play, this is why I'm going to keep this at 39, because depending on what you choose to play, this is why I'm going to keep it at 13 and 39. There's just so many different ways that you can take the deck that I don't want to sell you on a definitive version, though I do think that the Fossil Dino one could be a little bit better because we see how annoying Wind Statue is. Then you also don't have to add as much commitment compared to the other versions. From there we have Wireframe, Grand Duke, Underworld Goddess, Avramax, Appaloosa, Access Code, Nightmare Unicorn, Selene, copies of Beyond the Pendulum, the Hida, Pit Knight, and the Masquerena to round out the extra deck. Anyways, that's all I have for today's video, and if you made it this far, I thank you for watching and I hope you enjoyed. If you have any suggestions, feel free to leave them down below. It's Bones, signing out.